There are things that we experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in a corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us, share your story, share your evidence, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is Minnesota Ghost Box Radio.
And this is Minnesota Ghost Box, live streaming on ParaX Radio and available on the After Hours feed on iHeartRadio Network. Welcome. My name is Greg Bach, and coming to you from Premiere Night in St. Michael, Minnesota. Well, what on earth does that mean? Well, tomorrow is the premiere of our second episode of the Minnesota Ghost Box web series of the Soap Factory investigation. We released the first episode a couple weeks ago, but this episode is nothing but evidence from start to finish using multiple spirit boxes and multiple methods of trying to get spirit activity. And we are extremely excited to share this with everybody, and you'll be able to find it tomorrow on our YouTube channel. So please consider taking a look at it. A lot of work has gone into this, and I think it's actually pretty darn good. I think that there's a lot of great paranormal evidence in there, as well as just some best practices, which works very well for what we're about to talk about. I think tonight's show is going to be pretty good. Tonight we have a special topic that is close to my heart, and I think to the folks that I'm going to have on the show tonight. We're talking about paranormal best practices. It's going to be a discussion, and perhaps even touch a little bit on Paranormal 101. And this features John Marson and Ryan Headley from the paranormal team, Things That Go Bump Minnesota. We all know there is no such things as experts in the paranormal field, as we learn new things with each investigation. What this discussion will do is between John, Ryan, and myself will give our opinion on best practices while taking part in an investigation, what has worked for us. But it's also important to hear from other people. We invite paranormal teams from all over the country to join into the chat room and share with us your tips and best practices. And when I say paranormal teams, I mean investigators, people who are interested, people who have done this. We really want to hear from everybody. This episode is an opportunity for everybody to learn. John and Ryan, welcome to Minnesota Ghost Box.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you very much. I would like to invite all of our listeners to join into the conversation. As we said before, this is going to be an episode that's going to rely on people's, not only their questions, but also comments on what they think works for them in the situation. Because, you know what? I would like to learn also. And you can do so by visiting our chat room. It is located at www.para-x.com. And on the main page, it very clearly says, listen now, with live chat, and join in. And from there, you can ask us all sorts of questions, but you can also comment on what we're talking about or give any sort of information that you'd like to share. This is an open forum, and all views are welcome. So I am really excited to be talking about this. Why don't we start with this? John and Ryan, let's talk a little bit about your paranormal team, Things That Go Bump Minnesota. Ryan, how did that start?
John and I both worked together for a while, and in working together, we started talking about paranormal experiences and realized that we've been dealing with the paranormal for a number of years, and we decided to kind of make it official and start doing investigations and be there to help people go through stuff that we went through and kind of help them in ways that we never had that option before, so we wanted to provide that assistance to people.
Mm-hmm. Now, John, what year was that?
Right. What was it, Ryan? 4 years old? 3 years? 3.5?
4 years. 2013.
So how has the team grown? And I don't necessarily even mean by numbers, but I mean just as the journey, your paranormal journey, as far as with everybody.
For me personally, and I think John can attest to this too, the psychic abilities have really started opening up the more we dive into this. Being able to tune in, I think, is something that I've been really impressed by.
John, what about you?
And adding to that, when Ryan says psychic abilities, I think everybody has that. It's whether you want to develop it or not. And I thank a lot of people, a lot of different people with these gifts, and that has helped us along the way, taught us, and helped us grow with that. I think that is very important. You know, if you're going to be into this type of field, you have to open yourself up and be able to understand what you're feeling or what you're going through or what may be in the room with you or things like that. Yes, the equipment is great. It backs up what you're talking about. That way, you know, if I'm feeling something or if I'm hearing something or I see something, yes, the equipment is great. And that will validate what you're going through at that time if you're lucky to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you. And you all know who you are, but thank you for helping us with that, and because you've really brought us a long, long way.
Now, I've investigated with both of you on a number of occasions, and the whole time that we've investigated, working with mediums and people with psychic gifts and stuff has been a major part of the investigations that we've all been on together. My question is, when you had started doing like your first investigation, how big was the whole belief into mediums or to the psychic abilities? Was that as big of a part as it is now, or did you need a little bit of seeing it in action to kind of glom onto it a little bit more?
As far as that goes, I would say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead, John. For me, I was always skeptical of it. Needed, more proof of it, and when I got that proof, I mean, it's pretty undeniable that there are people with gifts out there, and started learning more about it and expanding my horizons in that field, and it just really opened up my eyes, and now there's some more abilities that I'm able to tap into as well.
Mm-hmm. What about you, John?
Yeah, as far as that goes, I agree with Ryan, what he's saying on it. But it also helps you, because as I was growing up, went through many things, different things, seeing different things, experiencing different things that I couldn't explain. It's like, okay, am I nuts?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, once we got into, when we started talking about it, and I never used any type of equipment beforehand to validate anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, once we got into this, we got our recorders, our cameras, all the good stuff, and that helped along the way. It's like, wow, look at what you caught, or wow, listen to that voice, and it's like I validated myself by hearing that or seeing that on the equipment, and so then as time goes on, and with the help of other people teaching, it's turned out really nice.
It's really amazing, actually, to being a part of those investigations and having not only kind of to mirror what you said, not only having the people with psychic abilities being a part of the investigation, but then suddenly you start realizing I have those abilities, that now I am starting to get some of those same feelings, or I'm tapping into something, or that I'm able to describe what I see, and the person who you think is, that they're the medium, you're not, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly it. There's something really amazing about that.
It really is.
Yes.
And there was, and I'm not going to go into the exact situation because it's a private thing, but there was a investigation that we kind of all took part in, that something was described to us, and that immediately Nicole, who was with us, was describing what she was seeing. But I remember, Ryan, you and I were like, even a little bit beforehand, just kind of looked at each other and like, this is what we're seeing. And it was exactly what Nicole was seeing. Nicole wasn't hearing what we were talking about. So it's one of those really unique situations that it's like, yeah, this is a really powerful gift that we have, and I'm very excited. That it feels like that the more and more investigations that I'm doing with your team, the more that my gifts are growing, and it's fun to see and all of us talk about it. I've been really enjoying that part of the process.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and not only the opening up of gifts, but the finding new techniques too. With the equipment, you guys have different equipment than us, and that's fun for me too.
Yeah. There is something interesting about being able to see the different processes that teams have and how they go about it, and I personally, when I see that, I just think, oh wow, and I always tend to think, oh, we should be doing something like that. Not that necessarily we should, but it's just like, oh, those are great ideas. Those are really smart things to do, and one of the things that I really appreciate is like the different types of equipment that you guys are using, and some of them being stuff like the Kinect and whatnot. But would it be fair to say that generally, at least for you two, that what you guys tend to like to use the most is going to be like just the audio recorder?
For me, definitely, that's my go-to. That's my bread and butter. I never do an investigation without my digital recorder, and I have one in particular that's my favorite.
Yeah, and why is that? Why is it your favorite?
I just feel kind of a connection to it, kind of like you with your SB7. Me and that recorder, it just feels right whenever I'm using it.
It is an interesting thing, and I'd like to expand on that just a little bit, because I'd be interested to know, anyone who's in the chat room, or if you want to join the chat room, I'd love to get your opinion. If there's something that you use that when Ryan says that it's go-to, it feels like there's something that is connection with it. It's not because it's just his favorite thing, and correct me if I'm getting too weird or wrong here, Ryan, but it's also because you actually feel the energy from that device. Like it's part of you. It's part of what you know that you're going to get the best evidence from it. You know that you are connected to it in ways that you wouldn't be connected to maybe another spirit box that you have with you, or another voice recorder. There's something that's very a kinship almost between the equipment and you.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, the recorder that I use all the time is by no means the top of the line or anything like that. It's just kind of your basic recorder, and I have some really good ones that I hardly ever use because I don't feel that connection with them. This is the one that I feel closest to, so I use it all the time.
It is very interesting how that works. I mean, and you bring up a good point too. It's not the most expensive piece. It's something that you just end up, you've grown attachment to, and that's the same with the SB7 that I use. And the funny thing about that is, if you go to all the Spirit Box aficionados and whatnot, the SB7 is going to be it's going to be one that they look down on the most, because it's mass produced. It's, it has that horrible white noise that people can't stand. But for me, that was the SB7 that I'm using is the very first piece of paranormal equipment I ever bought. And from the first time I used it, words just started to come out of it constantly. So there is something to it. Now, even though you answered the question, Ryan, I'm going to say this. I'm going to ask this chat room question from Steve B. On here, and Steve had asked, do you find an analog recorder picks up EVPs better than a digital recorder?
And I said I like the digital because they don't have the background noise of the tape mechanism. Sorry. Analog uses the actual tape, so you have the wheels turning the tape as it's recording, and just the ones that I have seen and used, you can misinterpret that mechanical noise, because the microphones are so sensitive, as voices coming through. So the digital doesn't have any moving parts in there, a lot less background noise to try to filter through.
And it's interesting that I've read and I've heard people also talk about how they love the analog recorder, that there's something very organic to it. And I wonder too if that comes back from the years of maybe it depends on when you started doing the investigations. That I'm assuming, and I might be wrong, when you started doing the investigations, digital recorders were kind of what everyone was using. But there's some people that I've talked to that have been using them, from the analog days, and maybe that's just part of the preference too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, just like with your SB7 and my recorder, it's whatever you feel that comfort level with is the one that you're going to go to.
Absolutely. Swanee says that I like the K2 for two reasons. Number one, it measures EMF. And number two, it is another tool the spirits can manipulate to communicate. And, that I think for me, the K2 is one of those devices that, which is kind of silly in a sense. I actually thought that was more of whatever sort of device and say like a spirit box or something. But through all of the investigations that I have done, the K2 has been awesome, and there's something really special when all those lights start lighting up, and it's actually has now become one of my favorite devices. John, what about you? What kind of device do you like, or is it now actually moved to being more of just kind of your journey and being like a mediumship?
I like, excuse me, I'm sort of old school, so I'm pretty basic with what I use. But my answer to the K2, and for your guest or your listener on there, is that I agree with him 100%. Myself and Ryan were at the Palmer one night, and it was like 3:00 in the morning in the lobby area, just us. And all of a sudden my meter goes off, just crazy.
Yep.
And then it lasted, a couple seconds, it stops. So we go back and play it, and you hear this male, as it's going off, say a female's name, and it was so clear. And so, yes, answer to that question, I agree with him 100%. And back to your question, yes, old school, I like the camera, I like the voice recorder, I love the Connects. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I'm not the technical kind of guy, but that's the stuff I basically used. And I think cell phones with cameras, they work very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you brought up an interesting point that you both talked about a little bit beforehand in kind of a different way, talking about how if you're using your psychic abilities and that your piece of equipment validates what your abilities are saying, but also when equipment validates other equipment. And we had one, we have it a lot, but one is in the Soap Factory episode that's being released tomorrow, and that's a name that shows up on the Ovilus. And then as soon as we turn on the spirit box, that first name comes through right away, which is outstanding. And it's a 3-syllable word. So it's, that's, and we always say with a spirit box, if you can get something that's more than 1 syllable, then you know that you're getting something. My name is 1 syllable, and so I keep thinking it comes through, and it's not always what I'm hearing, but you get something that's pretty incredible, actually. Kimberly from Cat Paranormal had said, yes, I love my recorder too, and it's from Pawn Shop. So, I think that's also a very, a pretty funny, I don't know if I'm being funny, because it's actually a really cool thing to be able to get equipment from like wherever you can. And I see a lot of people who kind of either get it from pawn shops or get it from Goodwills and maybe augment it, change it around or whatever. I think it's a very resourceful way of getting some equipment. Have you two ever done anything like that, where you've taken like that kind of equipment, maybe augmented it to try to make it into something else or try to enhance it in any way?
Yeah,
I've go ahead, Ryan.
I've always looked at other things, because nobody knows what an actual tool might work for communicating with a spirit. we have our thoughts and ideas, but there's other things out there, and it seems like anytime somebody slaps a label of ghost hunting on it, the price goes up by 50%. So, yeah, I'm always looking for something other than the traditional ghost hunting tools.
Yeah, it's very true, and you've given some examples about some lights that you picked up, which I thought was, I mean, you're kind of, Ryan, to me, you're kind of the MacGyver of the paranormal in a certain way, because I always feel like that you're just kind of making some stuff, and you're just trying to, all you're trying to do is find solutions and trying ways to make it not only affordable but accessible to people, and I've always admired that. So that's pretty awesome. Also, Steve B has asked, and this is really a question for you two, and Ryan, I'm going to let you answer this. What have you found with the Kinect?
Oh, the Kinect, that's a fun one. That's something fairly new that we've been playing with for the last 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some pretty interesting interactions with it. If anybody out there doesn't know what the Kinect is, it's the same thing that they use for game systems. It basically shoots out a laser grid, and then it measures any changes in that, and it maps in a human stick figure once it reads so many points. So it's looking for the head, the neck, shoulders, arms, wrists, legs, everything. And once it gets enough of that, it'll map in, we call it. We've had, I know Swanee, he had a good one of what appeared to be a dog or a four-legged animal map in.
Yep.
We've had people or a spirit map in that we've been able to interact with by waving, raising an arm on command. We've had one nodding yes or no to questions. They do really interesting stuff, and the fun part about it is it's live. So if something maps in, you can see it right then and there and interact with it right then and there. You're not going back and watching it on video after you've already left and packed up for the day.
Right.
So you can get that instant validation off of it.
That's a great point too. The thing with that, with the K2, with Spirit Box. I mean, those are immediate. All that stuff is immediate, and that's exciting. And you're right. Swanee also has done a lot of Kinect work, and it's. I mean, where do you think that technology is going to go?
I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm not by any means that computer literate, but there's so many things that they can do with that type of software. The new ones out there now can map, I think, up to 5 or 6 different characters.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting in a room full of spirits and map every one of them. I'm sure they're probably going to put it into a 360 camera or something where you can set up in the middle of a room and cover the whole room to see who's all around. Something like that.
Yeah, and as you probably see on the chat room, Swanee had said that I caught one jumping up and down on a bed with the SLS. So, I mean, that's cool stuff. It's cool to see. There's something really kind of scary, a good kind of scary about seeing that, because this is live. This is really happening, and they're doing things that you would you wouldn't necessarily always expect. But there's something really fun about it. And it's cool to see them really interact with people, especially if you have somebody on camera, and then a spirit arrives around them, and how that spirit interacts with the living. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just sort of.
Can I add something on that one when you get done?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, John.
With the Kinect, I think it's also validating to the investigator or the person that is sensitive. If you're just sitting in a room and all of a sudden you're feeling a presence and you have your Kinect going, then all of a sudden a stick figure comes in. It's like, wow. I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what you're feeling, and it's validating to you.
Oh, that's very true. Now, Kimberly from Cat Paranormal had also said that small AM/FM radio can turn into a spirit box, and yes, that is certainly something that a lot of people do. And and Kimberly, I'm not sure if you're saying that you have done it or you could do it. So I just want to let me know, because I've done it and I've ruined some radios doing it, but there's something really cool about being able to build your own equipment that way and use it. So we also have another question that came to me through Facebook, and it's from Lisa. And she asks, how do you all mesh the paranormal equipment with your own psychic abilities, and which do you prefer? John, why don't you start?
What I prefer is the recorders, also cameras, because if I'm feeling something wherever I'm at, I will take out the camera or my phone and start snapping pictures. On an investigation, I will have my recorder with. I will also have that going. I will mark my times and take multiple pictures. If you're going to snap one, take 3, because in between there, and I'm sure that people know this, but in between there, you may catch something. And again, it's just validating to me what I'm feeling. But yes, the recorder, the camera.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
I recently I've been finding a pretty good balance between the two, between the psychic abilities and then the equipment. For a while there, it was getting to the point where we'd be on investigation trying to help out a family, and we're getting answers in our heads to all these questions, to the point where we weren't getting anything on our recorders and no evidence to come back and show the homeowner. So much so that we had to explain to the spirits that, yes, I can understand you. I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to look crazy when I try to tell these people this. Can you at least try to throw something on into the equipment so we can go back and tell them your story, so we can, explain what we're feeling and kind of validate that at the same time?
It's a good question, actually. When you're doing private investigations, how much do they know about the psychic side to it? And is that ever been something that they don't understand, might have a problem with, or has that just been accepted?
Usually by the time it gets to the point where they're calling in a paranormal investigating team, they're pretty much accepting of it, and they've done their homework, they've done their research, and they're aware of all the different abilities that are out there. So when we come in and explain to them that we were feeling something, or this is what we got psychically, they understand what we're saying. They may be skeptical of it, but they still understand that that's another aspect of what we can do. Absolutely.
Now, kind of getting into the whole idea of, best practices, or even Paranormal 101, why do you think say that somebody wants to get into being a paranormal investigator? Why do you think, what reasons do you think someone should be able, why they should become an investigator?
I think you got to go in for the right reasons. You shouldn't be doing it as a thrill seeker. And not to scare anybody off or anything, but you can get into some trouble with this. You open up some doorways that if you don't know how to take care of it, they're going to be pretty difficult to close those doors. So you got to be pretty sincere and honest about it. And for me, it's also respect for the dead. Not going in and antagonizing them and poking and prodding them to make them dance like a trained monkey.
Yeah.
That respect level has to be there, and if you don't have that, it's probably not a good idea to start doing it.
John, what do you think?
Yeah, as far as wanting to get into it, I understand people's curiosity. That's what got me. But yeah, you really truly have to have it in your heart that you want to get the right answers. You want to try to help, the average person that's having experiences that don't understand it, to help them understand, or try to help them understand, so they don't think they're crazy. But yeah, I think you have to have it in your heart that you want to do good with it. I've seen people out there that thinks it's a frickin' joke.
Yeah.
And they just be stupid with it. And it's like, they end up paying for it in the long run. It's not a joke. We try to work off respect and just total, thank yous. Just, I don't know.
Yeah,
just total respect on it.
As we always say, always do the please and thank yous. Always,
Yes.
it's always just, kind. And, people, I get all the time, it must be scary. And it's not scary because I don't go into scary situations. I mean, there might be situations where Nicole and I did a private investigation a few weeks back. And, there was something possibly scary in there, in terms of how people are being treated there and stuff. But our approach to it doesn't change. Our approach to it doesn't change from if we're at the Palmer House versus being at a private investigation with people being frightened out of their minds. All that changes is that, we know the story a little bit different possibly, but our approach don't change. We don't go in getting angry at people. There's... right away people are thinking, oh, it's demons, it's this, it's that. And it's like, well, actually, there's probably some miscommunication somewhere in the line, either from the living owners or the spirits that are there now. And our job is to go in there and find out what that is. And there's like, some negotiation going on there. There's some kind of peace treating being coming out of it. It's not right away being like, well, these spirits are bad or anything. It's like, well, what's the real problem here? That's what we're here to do, is find that out.
No, I agree with you 100%, Greg. And it's like, it sort of drives me a little crazy when I hear people that do this, do whatever reason they have, but everything out of their mouth is a demon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, please stop that. Everything is not a demon. You'll know when it's a demon. I can act like a demon if I want to act like a demon, but I'm not a demon.
Yeah.
But you can portray that, and you can do that in the afterlife as well.
Absolutely.
So if it seemed like a demon, may not be.
Yeah.
So, people that sit there, demon this, I don't like that.
Right.
Because you're scaring your client for the first thing. They don't understand what you're talking about. And the last thing you want to do is scare them. And second of all, when you're investigating, and if you're conjuring up things like that, everybody needs to remember one thing. You get to go home. They have to live there. So be careful of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what I'd like to do. We need to take a break. And after the break, we're going to continue to talk with John and Ryan about more of their investigations, more about what we feel could be best practices, but also the chat room has been pretty active tonight, and that's exciting. I thank you all very much for that. And so any more questions you have, please send them through. We also want to talk to John and Ryan about an event that is coming up for them in August. I want to talk a little bit about that. You are listening to Minnesota Ghost Box on the After Hours feed on iHeartRadio and the Para X Radio Network. And welcome back to Minnesota Ghost Box, doing some live streaming on Para X Radio and available on the After Hours feed on iHeartRadio. Thank you for joining us. Tonight our guests are John Marson and Ryan Headley from Things That Go Bump, Minnesota. And before we get back to John and Ryan, I just wanted to quickly go through a couple things here real fast. As I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure most of you are sick to death of this, is that our new web episode of Minnesota Ghost Box is released tomorrow on YouTube. It is the second and final part of our investigation of the soap factory. A lot of time and effort has gone into this, and we're very excited to be able to share that with everybody. So please, if you have a chance, take a look tomorrow on youtube.com/MNGhostBoxOfficial. Also, while there, please consider subscribing to our channel. You can like us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/MNGhostbox. And if you follow us on Twitter, our handle is at MNGhostbox. So there's a lot of ways to follow us if you so desire. No obligation, of course. You can also go to our website at www.mn-ghostbox.org. There you'll find some of our spirit box evidence and some past radio shows. You can also see some of the articles we have up about kind of what we're talking about here, about taking care of yourselves while you are doing investigations. I also want to point out that I'm going to be on a panel at Wizard World. It's a convention in downtown Minneapolis. I'm going to be talking about Doctor Who, and it's moderated by Dave Schrader on May 6th at 4 p.m. So if you go to that convention, please stop by and say hi. I'd love to meet some people. If you've been listening or if you've been to our website or anything, please stop by and say hi. Now, for Things That Go Bump Minnesota, you can go to their webpage. It's at www.thingsthatgobumpmn.com. They are also on Facebook. And in a minute or so, we're going to talk about an event that they're going to have in August, which is going to be pretty cool. But the one thing I do want to get to real fast before we go any further, and it's something that Nicole brought up on the chat room, and something that kind of is, in a way, in my mind, and I'd like to know your opinion, John and Ryan. She talked about why education is so important when you're doing paranormal stuff. And, obviously to me, I think that can go on all facets of what we're doing and how we interact and how people interact with us. Education, being able for people to know what they're dealing with. We have to know what we're dealing with. We have to be able to explain to our clients what they're dealing with. Or if you're doing an event, you have to explain what people might get into, which you guys do a fantastic job. To me, education is the ground floor. And thank you, Nicole, for bringing that up. I really appreciate that.
Nicole rock.
Yeah. Well, kind of like you said at the beginning of the show, Greg, nobody is an expert at this. And if they claim to be, I would dispute that claim, I guess, because, to be honest, we just don't know. There's no way for us to know. There isn't a textbook written on what the afterlife is all about, because nobody's been able to write one in the afterlife and give it to us.
Right.
But there are ways that we can learn and continue to grow and just gain that general knowledge base to become more well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may be experts in one particular thing, but nobody is an expert at knowing everything possible about the paranormal.
No. And it's going to be interesting someday when we all pass along and we find out how naive we were about what we thought we knew about this field. I think there's going to be something about that is going to be like a real eye opener for all of us at some point.
Yes, you're an expert when you pass over.
I'll make sure I tell you guys what it's like.
Please do.
So Miss Lisa sent me a note on Facebook, and she asked, which is another good point to bring up. And I think, we could talk we could talk for hours, and we've talked most of the first half about our equipment, our abilities, all these wonderful things. But Lisa's like, can you talk about protecting yourself from energy, good, bad, others? People go to places and spaces without knowledge. I think this is a fantastic point about, having to protect yourself when you're doing these investigations. John, let me know, what are you thinking?
Oh my God. Yes, she is 100% right on that. And everybody needs to understand this. And again, most people don't understand that because they're not educated on it. We didn't know this when we started out. If you do not spiritually protect yourself when you're doing this, it's game on.
Yep.
You could be in some trouble. And again, that's where I thank all of our friends that have this gift, have taught us and brought us as far as we are with this, to teach us how to protect yourself. It's not hard. And at our event here in August, this will also be taught to all of our attendees.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, we take this very serious, and it's just a learning process. So yes, protecting yourself, utmost important, number one. And this has been where I have not protected myself, and there's been some trouble.
I John, do you want to kind of go into what happened at one of our events?
I'll let you go for it if you like.
Well, at one of our events, we both, John and I, always protect ourselves really well, and we feel that we're pretty well, we call it bubbled up. Mm-hmm. It's a term that we've learned. And we just happened to walk downstairs at this event, and as soon as we went through the door, this huge wave of anger, just absolute anger hit us, to the point where we were ready to start throwing fists at anybody and everybody. We just wanted to hurt as many people as we can. We realized that right away, got out of the situation, removed ourselves, and we weren't able to clear it ourselves. We had to go to one of our healer friends that was there, and she had to take care of it for us. But being able to recognize those things is something that a lot of people may not be able to right away, and it can get them in some trouble.
Yeah, it is a very important thing because, like you said, it's not hard to do at all. And we've been to events, and we've done some group investigations where we make sure that everybody takes part in some way, that they understand, and we walk everyone through the protection process. But it is very much like, you don't do it, and I've done it where I've gone to an investigation that's really just one investigation, not protected or not had people with me because I was very early on in my days, and you pay for it. You do pay for it.
Yes, you do.
It's just utterly insane. It's utterly insane how people who laugh at this stuff, like not even just like they like the people who are casual about it, who are the ones who are like, Greg, I'd love to go on an investigation with you. I'd love to, get a picture of a spirit or something like that, and then you explain to them the realities of going to it, even if you're going to a tour, like a ghost tour or something like that. It's all the stuff that you have to do, and it doesn't make any difference to the spirits whether or not you're on a tour. If you're really legit investigator or you're just dabbling in it, they're gonna do what they feel they need to do, and it doesn't matter.
No, absolutely. And it's like, they're not on cue for you. You're going to experience something when you do not expect it, and all of a sudden it's going to be, boom, there it is. It's like, I can sit in a dark basement for 4 hours and get nothing. Mm-hmm. When they're ready to communicate with you, and you're not going to expect it, that's when it's going to happen.
I find, and I've been on investigations with you guys, and there's been people in the group, like along for the investigation, that I have worried about on a number of occasions because I feel like they open themselves way too much. Because I do think there's people who want to experience something so badly that they don't quite realize that they've opened up the absolute like drain of like, I want to get it, I want to experience it, and realizing how much they put themselves at risk. They might have stomach problems, they might have headaches, they might have something that's like, gotta back off a little bit. It will come, it will happen, but don't open yourself up. You don't need to be an open book for this.
Don't open yourself up, and don't ever invite anything. It, like you just said, Greg, it will happen. Just be yourself. Open your mind up a little bit to where you're not blocking everything out, and just let it happen.
And I think Steve B just put up a point that's also worth talking about a little bit too, is the idea that, you got to protect yourself during an investigation, but you also need to protect yourself so that nothing follows you home. And that's a concept that I've talked to people about, and they're just like, what the? And it's like, yeah, it happens, and you really have to be careful about that.
Absolutely. It's happened to me a few times. And it's like, and how you know this is like, you just feeling different, and all of a sudden you're acting different, or something's happening to you on a regular basis. And it happened to me, short story, happened to me one time. I started getting scratched, and this lasted about 8 days.
Yeah.
In the morning, getting ready for work, and it would be once a day. I would get a scratch, and it's like, okay, that's weird. Knock it off. I'm not amused. So it finally kept going every day. I talked to a friend of mine, of ours, and all of a sudden she says, well, here's the problem. You have an attachment, because she had tapped in. And it's like, okay, I don't feel like I do, but if you say I do, I'll go with that. And it turned out to be a female. I said, okay, why me? Well, you were in a bar, and she thought you were funny, and she thinks you're funny, so she attached herself to you. I said, okay, why the scratches?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the answer I got is because she thinks you're funny. It was like, well, I don't think it's funny. I don't like being scratched. I don't like little blood droplets dripping down my leg, arm, or whatever. And I said, can we send her on her way? And the funny thing was, she said, yes, I can take care of this for you. And I was standing there, and nobody had hands on me whatsoever. And she was doing her thing, and all of a sudden, I felt this pull. And it's like, oh, okay, this is pretty weird. Nobody's touching me. And, it didn't hurt, but yet you could feel the pull. And then all of a sudden, like, boop. And then it stopped. Okay, she's gone. And it's like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible. Now, there is a very interesting conversation going on in the chat room right now, and I want to get your guys' take on it. I know I have a personal opinion on this. There's a conversation going on right now about investigating in your own home, and I have been told many times, especially when you have the device like the spirit box and whatnot, that first of all, I do believe you should not investigate your own home. I just want to say that to start with. Does it mean that I've followed that advice? I haven't always followed that advice, especially when I get a new piece of equipment. Maybe I want to try it out. The idea is, though, that you don't know what you're communicating with. And I wanted to kind of bring this out publicly because I think this is worth talking about. Swanee had said I should never investigate your own home. Susie, who's on our chat room tonight, she asked, what if you want to talk to spirits reside in your home? Do you feel that's not a smart idea? I would like to weigh in on it, if that's all right. And then I'd like you two to weigh in on this with your opinion. The problem is, in my opinion, what if you want to talk to spirits reside in your home? How do you feel that is not a smart idea? How do you know what those spirits are that you're talking to in your own home? You just don't know who you're talking to. And maybe one time you get someone they give a name or something. The next time some spirit says that's that spirit, but it may not be. There might be something going on there and might not be a really good idea to do so because you don't know what the intentions are of those spirits that you're talking to. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with you too. I would personally wouldn't recommend investigating your own home just because you don't know who you may be inviting in. But at the same time, if you feel like you want to, I would say just make sure that you know how to shut down that communication, to shut down those channels so that when you're done, and they cannot keep interrupting you, that they know that their time there is done too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think, John?
Well, I've lived this one. I have a rental property we used to live in, and before we left, my home was always very, very, very active. And we were just having a get together with the team one night before we did leave the property. And it's like everybody's asking, hey, can we check it out? But first of all, I do totally agree with you. Do not investigate your own home. Anyways, I did not do this. I would not do it, but I let the team members go in and do whatever. We were sitting in the backyard, and they were doing their thing. And not that they did anything wrong whatsoever.
Right.
But I'm just sitting there in the backyard by the fire, and it's like, it was almost like the house started speaking to me. I felt so bad that I always told myself, I'm not doing it to my house. And once they were in there, I felt so bad. It was like I got hit with so many different feelings from different, I'm going to say, spirits.
Yep.
Like, why are you doing this? Why are you allowing this? What are you doing? I went inside, talked to Ryan. I said, pull the plug.
Yeah.
It's done. It lasted about 15 minutes. I could not allow it to go on anymore. And they respectfully walked right out. And I just felt bad.
Felt like a promise was broken.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if you'll believe this, but we only have about 7 minutes left. And
wow.
we've barely scratched the surface. I'd like the chat room to let me know if we should have another discussion like this, because this is a lot of fun. But what I want to be able to do is I want to have you two talk about your event that's coming up in August. Ryan, what's happening in August?
Yeah, we're doing a public paranormal investigation at the Palmer House up in Sauk Center. Very, very well-known haunted hotel up there. It'll be August 11th to the 13th. We're bringing in a bunch of guest speakers, lecturers, including yourself and Nicole.
Yep.
Suzanne Worthley is going to be there. She's an energy practitioner and intuitive. Lisa Ekman, she's a shamanic massage therapist and also a healer. Natalie Fowler, she's an author and a freelance editor. She kind of specializes in paranormal writing, so that's kind of fun there. Going to be a really fun weekend of education, like we were talking about, learning how to sense these things, protect yourself, and kind of dive into your spirit and psychic powers, as well as kind of the tools of the trade, too, that we use. Should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it. We've done a couple of them up there and had a blast every time.
And I've been to a number of these now, and I know I can say for knowing Suzanne and Lisa how awesome it is to know them and work with them, and of course Nicole and then you guys. I'm really excited about that. And here's the thing. For people, and I don't know if, I'm sure you two have the same thing that I have, is people come up to me all the time saying, I'd love to investigate with you. And it's like people who've never done it before. And it's like, this is your opportunity to do so, to go to one of the premier haunted locations that is treated very respectfully. And I can attest, and I'm always impressed when I watch you two, when you go through the paces of how to treat everyone, how to treat spirits, how to treat your equipment, the whole education process. You two do an amazing job on that, and I would want nobody else to run me through that. So this is a fantastic opportunity for people who are very interested in it to learn from two of the best who will take good care of you and then do an awesome investigation. And then the presentation that Suzanne puts on is mind blowing. So it's a fantastic situation. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Also with the Palmer House, Kelly Free, the owner, has been very generous. There's some rooms left. They're going quick. Tickets are starting to go quick. But if you stay at the Palmer, she will give you Thursday night free if you book for the weekend. Once the Palmer fills up, which it will be probably within a couple of weeks, we will have other accommodations for you in town. Friday night, Natalie's going to do something special with everybody. That should be great. This lady is awesome, and it's just a great weekend. It's just so much fun. Everybody's mixing, talking, getting to know each other, hearing different experiences. You'll hear a lot of evidence, see a lot of evidence that has been caught, and it's just a great time. So yes, like Greg said, if you want to experience something as far as investigating a haunted hotel or anything like that, this is your place to do it. Because Palmer has never disappointed me one time, whether I was there personally or on an investigation.
Now, and you can go to their website and go to their Facebook page to find out more about that. I will be posting about this again, and I will be continue to be talking about this basically every episode until it sells out, which I can't imagine it being too far from now, to be honest. We have less than 3 minutes left. There is one last piece of Paranormal 101 I do want to say very quickly because it's been on my mind lately. And for those of you who are thinking about reaching out to a paranormal team to do an investigation of your location, one thing that you should do beyond just your research, the minute that somebody asks you or tells you that it's going to cost money, hang up from them, stay away from them, do not engage any further with them, because a legit paranormal team will not charge for their services. And I do want to make sure that that is clear on here, that people know that.
100% agree with that. Do not pay for that service.
No, absolutely not. It is free. It's people who want to work and do the best that they can and get you the answers that you need. Someone comes to you and says it's going to cost money to cover costs for equipment, to do this, to do that. Just please, not only, in my opinion, tell the world that these people are trying to charge you, but also just go away. Just walk away from them. They're not worth it. And Cater asks, why shouldn't they charge? Because it's just not right. It's people trying to find answers. There's no reason why anyone should charge for that service. It's what we do, and it's how we want to help people. So, and I'm be more than happy to talk more about that after the show. John, Ryan, I feel like I did more talking than I normally do, so I hope I didn't stop you guys from being able to say anything. But it's been a blast having you both on tonight.
No, thanks
for having us.
Very good. Yep, absolutely.
And obviously, we didn't even get to anything that I said we're going to get to tonight. So we'll have you on again, maybe within in May or June. Let's keep this going. I think it's a nice series of discussions to have, because you two, I trust you guys with your opinion. We're on the same mind. There's a lot more that we can talk about.
Absolutely, and we're not experts by any means.
Nope.
We're learning every day.
Well said. John and Ryan, thank you very much. As usual, Sarge, thank you so much for running the board for us. We really appreciate it. I am going to be back on May 10th, I believe, and what I've been promising a Bigfoot episode. I think I'm going to have that next episode. Take care, everyone. Good night.